that one drink led into one drink every night, and then one drink every night then turned into I'm now homeless and all my teeth are gone and I don't know what happened to me.
I don't even know how this damn thing works.
I don't know.
All I know is I pay for the website and shit happens and we're good to go.
I mean, that's all you need. That's all you need to know
Exactly.
for it.
All right. So Chrissy is back, of course. This is gonna be like an every other week kind of a thing, I think, isn't it?
I think so.
I have
I
so
had fun
much.
last time. It was a lot of fun.
But we have so much shit to talk. That's the thing.
We do.
Okay, so this topic today is we've come up and decided alcohol. We deviated from Taylor Swift, which we could probably talk about for a while if I did
Do you
research.
really want to talk about Taylor Swift?
Not
Do you
today.
want to
Next
open that
time.
can of worms?
Next time.
I don't know
I'll
if I'm ready
watch.
to open that.
I'll watch some documentaries. I'll listen to some songs, and we'll talk about Taylor Swift.
I like it.
Why not? I mean, somebody's going to be interested, right?
Yeah. Well,
That's
there's a whole group of people that are interested and they are psychos.
all right. We're going to keep it for next time. So
All right.
alcohol. Now, you and I both drink so much less. Basically, we don't drink at all compared to what we used to. We used to get hammered, like hammered.
It was a lot of fun.
It was like some of the best stories that we'll ever tell are when we were just completely annihilated. But I can't
But
drink.
with that, like for me, I know like as much fun as I had, it also created a lot of problems for me that eventually I had to make the decision to not do it as often or
Mm-hmm.
as much because of what it did and what I saw growing up and what I could be if I continued it and where I landed.
The what you saw growing up. Now, I'm going to assume that is going to be the biggest part of it because personally, I grew up around a lot of alcoholics. I've watched a lot of people die. A lot of people struggle with, was it psoriasis of the liver or cirrhosis? One of the
Cirrhosis.
cirrhosis of the liver.
Yeah, psoriasis
Like,
is a skin.
yeah. So, like, I've seen a lot of tragic stuff when it comes to alcohol as a kid. Now, did you have that same thing growing up?
So for me, I saw a lot of just heavy drinking and just adults acting wild on it. I also saw the damage that my grandpa, he was a heavy alcoholic my mom's entire life, my aunts and uncles, all of their lives, and all the stories that they have said and like what has happened to them. And then just seeing them and their drinking habits and what happened with them also, and then the way that, like, us grandkids, the way we view our grandpa is so different compared to, like, our aunts and uncles because our entire lives, he was sober for the most part. At least for mine, he was completely sober
Mm-hmm.
for his entire life. But some of the grandkids didn't get to see that their entire life. I did. But, like, our parents definitely didn't get to see that, so they have a completely different view of him compared to us. And it's really funny to, like, actually think about, like, how much drinking really does change people.
Oh, for sure. And that's the crazy part is like your parents might see the grandparent one way and you'll hear all these crazy stories, but when you look at it, you're like, I don't see it and it's hard to understand.
No, most definitely, and it's, like, even for myself and, like, my stepmom, she had always told me growing up, she was like, "Be careful drinking, it runs in your family, it's in your DNA, it's in your blood, be careful, because if you drink, it's not gonna be fun for you." And sure enough, it wasn't. Well, it
So,
was, but it was not.
so my personal belief when it comes to stuff like that. So, does it run in your DNA and is it something that's kind of genetic? I never believe so. When people say that to you, and like your stepmom saying that is almost like programming your mind and almost forcing you down that path versus it actually being genetic.
See, I don't think it's necessarily I don't know if it's genetic. I do think that addiction can be genetic, and that's just the makeup of what happens. And when you get a taste of something, if you like it, you're going to continuously do it. However, with that being said, I also don't believe I have like an addictive personality or side to me. Like I could literally just stop anything one day to the next. Like I
Hmm.
am that kind of person where if I'm done doing something, I'm just going to be done with it.
Well,
So
but
yes and no,
along,
I think it is genetic, but I also think it's a learned behavior. And when you grow up and you see something so common, such as drinking from so many other people, I think that's what people mean by like it's in your blood and then it's in your DNA, is you've been around it and you've been exposed to it, that there's no casual, comfortable drinking for some people because all we've seen is heavy drinking.
right now, off topic, that you say you don't have the addictive personality because you could stop something and you're done. Now, are you the same way? And I think you're the same way with people. Like if
Oh,
somebody,
I'm
if
absolutely.
like you could
People is
just cut
probably
off.
I will cut a person off before I cut something out. Like
See,
it's easier for me to cut people out and cut people off than to cut things and objects out, as weird as that is.
no, for sure. It's like you just you don't rely on things to feel comfort because you're pretty much comfortable and you know yourself. In my opinion, that's how I see it.
Very much so now.
Right? Because I'm the same way with people. Like I can just people are so easy to cut off, like you said, compared to objects or things.
Yeah, and I think it's just growing up and having so many things happen, and it's just at the end of the day, like people are either there for a season, reason, or a life. And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, if people that aren't going to stay aren't going to stay, and there's no reason to try to make them stay.
Hmm. And I have found that people that drink, the every weekend person that drinks every weekend, they generally don't have many goals. They don't have much going on, and they don't have that compelling personality to where you want to hang around them for other than drinking.
No, that's how a lot, like even as an adult, now that I don't drink, I feel that I'm able to be creative. I'm motivated. I'm able to go to the gym, work on myself. I'm not sick. My body doesn't hurt. But also as an adult, trying to make friends when you don't drink is very difficult because it's everything like that people want to do. It's centered around drinking, and
Yeah.
it really bothers me because one, it costs too much. Like, why do you even want to spend that much on that? Then you're just injecting poison into your body that's just going to end up hurting you for 2 days. And then if you're like me, you get way too drunk and you start saying wild, random shit and you start doing weird things. And it's not fun.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
fun for everyone.
I'm the same way. I tend to run my mouth a little bit too much, and people
Yeah, I
tend
know.
to dislike me at the end of the day. But that is, though, like, everything is centered around drinking when you become an adult, and it is extremely hard to find friendships or people that are outside of drinking because it's like the majority of people, that's all they want to do.
No, absolutely. And like it's weird because I think now I go to things alone. I have so much fun just by myself. And like I don't wait for people to go do things because they're going to want to drink or they want to do something around drinking. Like I don't even like invite people places anymore because I'm just like I'm going to go do this. I'm going to have fun. If I run into people, cool, great. But for me, like I don't want to drink. I don't want to be in that environment. And I feel like if I invite people or I try to, like they always want to go out drinking. And it's just like,
Hmm.
why?
Now, do you think a lot of that is because alcohol is glorified?
Absolutely.
Like, think about every alcohol commercial you've ever seen. If they showed the reality of people passed out on the street or car accidents, DUIs, do you think people would drink if that's what was posted as your normal alcohol commercial?
I mean, do you remember high school? Like, think about high school, like, I was showing those, like, I don't know about your high school, but my high school, we did, like, a whole program before spring break, or I think it was, like, before prom or spring break, one of them, where they, like, literally reenacted, like, a whole car accident, like, the whole, like, 911 call would play, like, through the entire school, and, like, I still get chills, like, thinking about it, and there's certain classmates, everyone that was involved in, like, the car accident, they would actually, like, walk around like ghosts, and you weren't allowed to talk to them. The kids that were ghosts, they were actually taken to morgues to go see dead bodies of people like from um, DUI car accidents that died. Families had to write eulogies for these kids and go through like a whole like we went to like a whole funeral for them and like acted like they were dead after this car accident.
Right, but you did that one time in high school, right?
Yeah, it was it
Now,
was every year. Every 2 years we
Okay.
did it.
So high school is 4 years. You've seen it twice, roughly twice, right? How many alcohol commercials have you seen glorifying alcohol on TV from the time that you were born
Oh,
until
please.
now?
Way too many.
So it's like you're programmed more with those glorified
Oh,
commercials
yeah.
all the time versus you've seen some horrific stuff twice, basically.
Well, do you think that companies are gonna put out that their product may cause problems in your life?
Oh no! Like
It's a
if they put,
product at the end of the day. You gotta sell it and glorify it.
oh for sure, and it's kind of sad that something so dangerous could be so glorified and legal to be put out the way it is.
No, absolutely. And it's scary, but at the same time, it's only scary for some of us, like a population of us, because there are people that can drink healthily and that only do drink like once, twice, very sociably. And those are people that should have fun with it and should
Hmm.
drink. But then there's people like myself where I know like if I have more than two, it's downhill from there, dude. Like just pack your
Yeah,
bags and go home.
I don't know if I could drink 2 drinks anymore because physically I get sick so quickly.
Same.
I mean, just I can
I'm
get
either I either get sick or I'm either drunk after 2, and I really hope that it's the sick part these days because I don't like being drunk.
that's like after half of a drink ish, I start feeling hungover with the headache and sick, nauseous feeling and all that. I want to go to bed.
No, absolutely. Like I know there was I think it was like a month ago, I went out with one of my friends, and one of our friends came in from out of town, and we were I was so excited to go out. And like there we are, I'm having one PBR at like dinner or whatever, and I just look at my friend and I'm like, "Can you take me home?" And it's only like 8 p.m. and we're not even through dinner. And she's like, "Yeah, of course." And I was like, "Thank you.
see,
I just don't feel good."
see, beer and food is something I could never do together because they would. I'd get so full that I could never eat, and I just couldn't do both. It's hard.
But do you think that now, because you seem to eat pretty healthy, I know I eat pretty well these days, and I stay pretty healthy. And I know whenever I eat bad, and then if you're gonna mix drinking on top of that, like
Oh
it's
God,
terrible. And do you
it's
think that
horrible.
from being more healthy, that this is where you now have like the food problem with eating and eating bad and then drinking with that?
I think so. I really do think there's a crazy correlation between the two.
Oh no, absolutely.
Because when I used to drink all the time, eat like shit, it was no big deal to do any of it. You know what I mean? Of course, you'd have a hangover depending on how much you drank, but just start eating and drinking again the next day and you kind of feel better.
No, absolutely.
But because, like, I don't know, people just don't, I don't know if people don't realize how bad alcohol truly is or they don't care.
I think it's a mixture of not knowing
Right.
the downside until you end up in trouble. I ended up in rehab, like that was great. Not really, but I mean, I ended up in rehab and that was probably the most eye-opening experience out of my entire life. And I'm really grateful actually that I went to rehab. Um, and it wasn't like like it was military rehab, so I don't want to like make it sound like I was like in like
Hmm.
real rehabs. I've never been to a real rehab, so I don't know if that's even different. But
Right.
probably one of the best things that happened to me was actually going through that experience. And like it wasn't something that like for a little bit I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be sober, blah blah blah." But then I don't if you're sober, fantastic, great for you. But I don't believe in telling myself I'm not gonna ever do something again
Right.
or writing something off because there are times where I'm sorry, if I see a glass of wine and especially if I'm having a steak, you better fucking pour me that cab. Like, pour me that cab because that's what I want, like, please.
I mean, so like I do agree and I do believe in what you're saying. The whole I'll never touch it again thing. I don't know. It's there is strength in that, but almost a weakness in my opinion. It's very odd how I look at that, but once in a while you do crave and you do want that flavor, that taste, even though if it's one sip or half of a drink.
See, I don't think there's a weakness in it at all because I do it's just like heroin, like, there's some people where you give them a drop, they're gonna go a whole mile with it, like,
Hmm.
they're not gonna stop. Um,
But is that a weakness though? Well, heroin, I don't think you can compare to alcohol. There's a crazy difference because I grew up around that
is
a
there?
lot too. I grew up around a lot of heroin and stuff. It was is a huge. I think there's a pretty big difference.
I don't know. I feel like alcohol is pretty, it's more accessible and it's the same addictions at the end of the day. Addiction is
True,
addiction.
true. I feel like heroin's so much more addictive and can ruin you so much quicker than
Quicker, but
I'm gonna have one drink a month, like you said, one glass of wine with a steak. Like you can't get yourself to one glass of wine with a steak. You have to completely write it off.
some people, yeah.
But then again,
Like,
I've never been there, and I don't completely understand it
yeah, and
either.
I've been in and out of the program since rehab, like going through AA, like here and there. Like I'll go in and out of it, honestly, because it is for me, it's a comfort thing. My grandpa, again, he was in an AA for years. For me, it's sometimes going in and just getting that emotional sobriety and coming back out. Like,
Gotcha.
and that's what it's called. And like, it's a great group of people that are there, and like addicts and alcoholics, they believe in you talking and sharing your experience. Now, if you look through most therapy, and that's a lot like talk-based therapy. That's a lot of therapy. You talk about things. And that's all AA is you get a group of people together and they all talk about their struggles and
Gotcha.
how they can abstain. And like some people like and you hear it all the time where they're like, I try to have one drink, but that one drink led into one drink every night, and then one drink every night then turned into I'm now homeless and all my teeth are gone and I don't know what happened to me.
Yeah, the physical effects of an alcoholic, man. It's sad to watch a body degrade
And it's all
over
over
time.
time.
Over
It
time.
slowly poisons your body.
Mm-hmm. Especially to the point to where you wake up and you have to have a drink to even out the shakes and calm yourself down for the day.
Mhm.
I mean, aside from like heroin, I don't know what other drug is like that that I know of
Fentanyl.
offhand. Yeah, but I don't know if you could be addicted to fentanyl for 30 years though, can you?
I mean, I'm sure you'd probably die before the 30 years if you're
Yeah,
on fentanyl. I don't know.
yeah.
I'm not into that scene, so I have
I
no idea
I don't know either.
other than what I see on TV and documentaries.
But like you said, the alcohol is so much more accessible, so it's going to be more prevalent and more common.
No, absolutely, and
You know?
I think that's why it's glorified, and I think that's why it's so, like people hear, like if I come out and be like, "Oh, hey, I'm an alcoholic," people are gonna be like, "What?" And it's like every person could be an alcoholic. Anyone could be an alcoholic. Like, just because I'm an alcoholic doesn't mean I'm drunk or like everything in my life is shit. It just
Mm-hmm.
means, hey, I have a problem with drinking and I notice that and I don't do it, or yeah, I struggle with it still.
And crazy as it sounds, some of the smartest people I've met, some of the smartest day-to-day people in life I've met were alcoholics. Stone cold alcoholics. They said stuff when I was a kid, 6 years old, that I still remember to this day. And there is science that backs up what these people said. And it's like, holy shit, you were that smart? Like, I mean, you got to think about it. That's 30 years ago. They're saying stuff that now science is proving is true.
No, literally.
It's
And like,
crazy.
and what's also crazy is that people that drink, like your brain doesn't function and it takes a few days for your brain to function again properly. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
constantly drinking, like your brain's not going to function right. And that's something that's like people are smart. Like if you just don't inject yourself with all these poisons and all these bad things, like you could be your best self and so much better. And it's just
Yeah.
it's wild to think that people just enjoy drinking and the feeling and the thrill of it so much more than the thrill of life.
But like sleep, like it absolutely ruins your sleep.
Destroys sleep. It's the
Like
worst.
I was
Drunk
reading,
sleep. Oh my. Ugh.
and I read, I was reading the study about it yesterday, and it just destroys your sleep completely.
Mhm.
Like people don't realize that your body doesn't synthesize protein when you start to drink. I forgot, it was a crazy number. I think it was almost 80% reduction in protein synthesis or something like that.
Yeah, and like, cause your entire body, like, it slows your metabolism, everything slows down because of the alcohol, and then on top of that, um, You have to think about, like, I know when I went through rehab, I think the craziest thing was the sugars that you get
Hmm.
from drinking and how much of that you actually have to replace
But if
when you
I'm not,
stop drinking.
but if I'm not mistaken, the sugars from the alcohol do not convert to glycogen, right? If I read that study correctly.
I have no
So,
clue.
so your body's not able to use it as actual energy.
No, you can't use it as energy, but you're
Okay,
still taking in those empty
right.
calories and those
Okay,
empty sugars.
okay.
So
So I did read that right.
when you quit, like a lot of alcoholics will just like binge eat like crazy. Like I'll never forget my roommate in rehab. Like she made me take her one time to Krispy Kreme and she like I watched this girl just like stuff a dozen Krispy Kremes in her mouth and I was just like that was impressive.
So I mean that would make sense on why you're hungover the next day. All you want to do is eat.
Mhm.
That makes a lot of sense. I said I was trying to research just a little bit of stuff leading up to this, and one of the things that like 43
You
depends on
did
the studies,
research. I've
a
done
little
life
bit,
research
a
about
little bit,
drinking.
a little bit
Please.
on certain things.
I've done my research out on the streets.
I mean, I have that as well. There's just certain things that I found slightly crazy. Like, and it always depends on what study you read, but 43% of motorcycle accidents involved alcohol.
That's wild
Yeah.
and heartbreaking.
Yep.
That's really heartbreaking. Like that
Yeah.
really breaks my heart. Oh my
And
god.
like the amount of depression and alcohol related deaths since COVID started has skyrocketed in 2021.
What
Like
did?
like the amount of alcohol related deaths in 21 skyrocketed like
Well,
a
think
absurd amount.
about 2020 and 2021, the pandemic. There's a
Oh
bunch
yeah.
of alcoholics that were doing AA online if they could. So they weren't getting that support, and a lot of people relapsed. And then now it's just we're right back
See, I didn't think
to
about
it.
that. I didn't think about the people in AA. I just figured people's depression led them towards drinking.
And then there's that too.
Gotcha. So that
Both.
that makes sense. I never thought about the rehab people.
Hmm. Yeah, they
Uh,
all had to do like stuff online. People weren't able to go to rehabs. They were trying to do like video rehab. And I don't know about you, but like that just sounds like a dumb idea altogether.
yeah, oh for sure. But I think it's going to take us probably another 10 years to fully see the effects of what 2020 actually is going to be.
I think it'll be more than that.
It's
I think we'll
just,
see the effects from that for a long time.
yeah, but I think in 10 years we'll start to see them, but it'll take longer, of course, to get the full idea of what's going on.
What actually happened. Yeah.
Yeah, but man, what was your final moment or the final sip basically that put you to rehab while you were active duty and made you kind of slow down and realize.
So, right before I, my grandpa had died in early October of 2014,
Mhm.
I think. Yeah, 2014. And I was on leave. My family's a lot of fun. We all drink together. Go figure. Um, well, some of us all drink together, some of us don't. At that time, I was all about drinking with some family members. So I went out drinking, 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 came back from leave, just didn't stop. Continuously, like the first night I got back, it was found out it was someone's birthday, and I was like, yeah, let's go to Jack's, let's party. I'm in the mood. Like, girl, your grandpa just died. Take some time for yourself. No, I went balls to the wall, partying. Um, about a few weeks later, I think it was quick. It was like 2, 3 weeks after getting back, because my DRB was after Thanksgiving, because that's important to talk about too. Not really, but it's funny. So yeah, I had been just drinking for like 2 or 3 weeks straight. It was a Monday night. Monday night, get this, Monday night. I decide Monday night, I hear that there's a party in the barracks, so of course, I got like probably a 30 pack in my fridge or whatever. So I was like, yeah, let's party, let's party. At like 4 o'clock in the morning, I had training at 7 a.m., I think it was, or 7:30 a.m. I had to be somewhere. At 4 a.m., I started looking at the time. I was like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna make it there in the morning, guys. Like, well, if you guys are there, because I was definitely partying with other people that were going to be in that class. I was like, well, if I don't make it, guys, just tell them I'm at a doctor's appointment. And like we were all laughing about it, joking. Well, sure enough, I think at 6:30, it was when I decided to stop drinking. And I was like, well, I could take a nap and still make it. No, definitely never made it. Never made it to the training. People were calling me and like blowing up my phone, but I was drunk and asleep. I didn't wake up until somebody was banging on my window, and it was one of my friends, and I opened it and they're like, "Dude, you're in trouble. Like, they've been looking for you. Like, what the fuck, Chrissy?" And I was like, "Oh, oops. I'm late for that class, aren't I?" And they're like, "Yes." And they think that you're at a doctor's appointment. I'm like, "Well, I don't have a doctor's appointment." And they're like, "Okay, well, we need to take you to chief." I was like, "Okay, whatever." So I got dressed, go to see my chief, and then they just start like yelling at me. And I'm like, "Can I even just tell you guys like I wasn't at a doctor's appointment?" They never let me say like I was not at a doctor's appointment. I just kept getting yelled at. Like nobody ever like asked me but because these kids that I was drinking with, they're like, "Oh yeah, I think she's at a doctor's appointment," which I'm not mad at them. Like they were drunk, but they probably literally thought I was saying I had a doctor's appointment. Like so then it turns into this big old thing where I'm now in trouble and I'm getting my ass chewed by everybody. And nobody ever let me just tell them what happened, that I just overslept, but whatever. So I just kind of took on with the story and just kept going with it. Like why am I going to correct you guys like at this point?
Right.
So like I'm already in trouble. You guys already hate me. Like just just go with it at this point. So that's what I did. And then I think it was like 2 weeks later, I had to go to DRB. My dumb smart ass self. I didn't stop drinking during all of this either. Because why would I do that, right? So Thanksgiving, I had a 96 because I was no longer actually having to like be on post. And so I was like, I got a 96. I'm going to go party with friends. Drove up to Virginia, went and hung out with friends, partied there the entire effing weekend.
Oh
Like,
God.
I want to say I smashed a bottle of Jaeger in a night.
Believable.
And it was a
Definitely
good
believable.
dude, that Jaeger spice, if you get it around holidays, it's great.
Okay, I'll
It's
try
like
it.
Fireball and Jaeger had a baby. It's my
Oh,
favorite.
uh,
It's
I'll try it.
dangerous. It's
I'll
probably the
try it.
last time I actually drank it was this weekend.
I'll try it.
But I get back, I now have to go to my DRB. I think it was like on that following like the next work day, I had to go to DRB. And then I'm in DRB, and they're just yelling at me there. And they're like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I have a drinking problem, clearly. And they're like, okay, because they were like telling me that they're gonna take my rank and all this other stuff. I'm like, dude, I overslept for a class. Like, is it that big of a deal? Like, but then it was kind of a big deal because everybody knew I partied.
Yeah.
And so like I think it was more of just like boom, boom, boom. And then uh so yeah, I go to DRB, get in trouble, and they're like, well, you're now gonna have to go to MAST, which is like for people that aren't in the military, it's pretty much like having to go in front of like, I don't know.
A judge,
It's not
almost.
though, because that's a court
Kind of.
martial.
What? I don't even know how to describe it.
Right. Like it's like going in front of your principal.
Kind of. If
Yeah,
you need,
like having to go in front
yeah,
of your principal if it was a CEO that could take your pay and your job and then
kick you out of
restrict you at the same time.
yeah, kick you out of school. I don't
It's
know.
like a principal and a parent were to like merge.
They'd have a baby.
Yeah,
That's
if they're
awesome.
like, well, if they had a baby, I think that would be a person.
But shut up. Anywho,
But like if they morphed into one. But so like they were telling me that they were going to take my rank. I wasn't going to be able to leave base, all these other things restrict me. And so I was like, I have a drinking problem. And then so they're like, well, you're still going to have to go to mass. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I go to mass and I go to mass. The best part about going to mass is right before, because obviously drinking makes you heavy. And I've never been able to be a small person. And right before going to mass, my last meal, as I called it, was going to be McDonald's breakfast.
Oh God.
My dumbass, I'm in my blues. I go to eat McDonald's, fucking button pops straight off. Like, literally, as I'm standing outside,
Oh
my
God.
friend looks at me and she's like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Does anybody have a safety pin?" Like, this is so embarrassing. That was the most embarrassing thing. But that's how I ended up in rehab, and it was great. Honestly, it was a fun time. I met some really cool people there. Honestly, some of the best people I've met in my life are from there.
Oh really?
Um, and also a lot of fun to party with after.
See, my similar. See, what kind of made me cut down is about almost a similar story. When my great grandfather died, we were actually in Bahrain, New Year's Eve, partying at I want to say Buffalo, and I was hammered, of course. Looked down at my phone and got a text, "Hey, your great grandfather died. Sorry," and it set me off, and I was pretty intoxicated to where I should have been in care of somebody who should have been in care of me. I walked out the door, got in my car, started driving around the island, ended up going down something that turned into a dirt road, and I'm driving and there's nothingness, and I all of a sudden look up, slam on the brakes, and went off of a cliff into the ocean.
Oh my god.
Oh yes, oh yes. I just
But it
stopped.
got dark there, like, you couldn't see
Yes,
some things and,
it
like,
was
the roads, like, there wasn't lit
exactly,
roads.
exactly. It was pitch black.
Oh, that's
And
scary.
it scared the shit out of me. And I called two people that we were with, and they came and got me, luckily, and took me back to base.
Oh, that's so scary.
But yeah, it was after that I definitely slowed my roll.
See, but, like, me drinking and, like, getting in trouble in the Navy, like, that wasn't even what stopped me from drinking, and getting in trouble isn't what ever stopped me. Like, what recently has stopped me was just last year I started to get really sick anytime I had a beer,
Hmm.
and, like, I really have, like, just cut back, like, tremendously probably since after the Navy, I would say after the Navy is when I started to slow down drinking and stop. Um, and then I stopped because I got really sick, and anytime I drink, I get really nauseous, really sick,
Hmm.
really nasty. And then more recently, it was about a month or so ago, maybe, I was just out and I had 2 or 3 drinks and I was just rambling, talking and talking and talking. And the things I was saying, like the next day, I was just like, why? Like, Chrissy, you're 33 years old. Like, why are we doing this? Like, why do I have to sit there and like try to think about things I said?
Yeah,
That night, my friend had asked me if I would drive them home because I wasn't very drunk at all, or even I only had 2 drinks. So like I should be able to drive my friend home after 2 drinks, but I was like, I don't know if I'm good enough to drive. And then she's like, "Okay, I'll drive us." Like, let and then like an hour later, like, "Okay, let's go." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go to my car really quick and grab something, and I'll be in your car." No, I go into my car, I call her, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm just gonna drive home."
oh jeez.
And she's like, "Okay, dude." And then from there, that's where I was just like, "I'm done." Like,
Yeah,
from the talking and then from just being stupid, like, why would I tell someone I couldn't drive and then go get in my car and drive?
right.
Like,
Yeah.
that's dumb, Chrissy. That's drunk, Chrissy.
Well,
Drunk, Chrissy.
the best thing about it is we both definitely slowed our roll down quite a bit.
Yeah,
But unfortunately,
it is time.
I do have to get going to a birthday party. Yeah, it's noon and I have to go to a quick birthday party.
Birthday party. Oh,
I
I guess
know.
yeah, it's Friday.
I have to go to a birthday breakfast and then go get the first child, and I have a half hour to get all that done.
A birthday breakfast.
Yes. Busy life. Told you it's a busy day.
I know. My day's
But
busy too. I
all
got a
right,
lot.
I'm gonna study Taylor Swift. Next time is
Yeah.
Taylor
Yeah.
Swift
Well,
next time. I
wait.
promise.
When is the next one then?
Probably 2 weeks ish, maybe. Let's do it 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Eh, 2 3 weeks. Whatever you want. We'll talk about it.
Well, her album release is on the 21st.
Oh crap. We'll do a pre-album release. How's that? And then we'll do a post.
Well, what we could do is we could talk about her albums and her, and then we could talk about what we think this next album's gonna be, if you want. I don't know.
Done.
That's a lot of Taylor Swift to talk about.
Done. Done and
Ah,
done.
dang it. Okay.
All right, see you later.
Later.